Camera set. Sweet. Alright,
Go live.
Clicking live.
Oh,
No, it's okay. Starting live. And we're live!
It is 10:31. How is everybody? Are you all doing marvellously well? Who have we got? We've got Chris, David, Anita, Scott, Dave, Mark Becker, Chris again, Magnus, David says, hey Warren and Eric. There is also Christian, who's over there with headphones on. Hello Tom, hello Blue Way Dave, hello Ken, hello Alexi, Scott. How are you? Hope you're all doing rather marvellously well. So I got back from Nashville on Tuesday night, late. In fact, technically it was Wednesday morning. It was about 1:30 in the morning. And then the first thing I did, of course, was start a record with Charlie Klauser. Charlie has flown over here, so she might actually arrive just before we finish the stream. So if she does, we can all say hi to her. So there you go. It's been quite fun. We've worked on 2 songs. We've actually been finishing up the song that we tracked in Germany for the masterclass at Hansa Studios. And yesterday we started a second song. And we hope to have at least the basics for 3 songs done before she goes. So that's all rather wonderful. Hello Toby, hello Ken. Tom's saying the audio is real low. So, sorry, we can't ever seem to recall anything. Can we, gentlemen? Do we not have settings from last time?
Yeah, we do.
So it's not the same settings as last time?
Yeah, it is.
Yep, just recalled it.
Oh, it wasn't recalled before?
No, we're good. We're fine now. We're fine now. You're good.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Nothing like starting again every time from scratch. All right. So, sorry about that. Anyway, so yes, we're big, we're bad, we're back. And Tim says audio is fine, good, glad. Sheila, how are you? Paul Wickham. Now Alexi says audio is really loud. Okay, I don't know.
It's a big delay, so it's fixed now.
Okay. All good now, says Arthur. Sheila says it's good. Okay. Well, God bless it. We are ready to rock. First up, we have Nate. Hope you're all doing marvellously well there. Nate is up first with Good Loving. All right, so here we go. Really nice mix. Really, really good mix. I want to listen to a couple of things quickly. It's a really great mix, Nate. It's really fantastic. I'm sort of listening out because I think, frankly, it works really, really well. I'm just thinking about the snare, maybe having a little bit more ring on it and a little tiny bit less bottom snare. The reason why I say that is I just feel like there's a little bit of, and it's not really a problem with your mix, it's just production-wise, there's a little bit of confusion in the high mids and the high end. Like I hear that clack, but the bite and the snap of the snare, and I also hear a lot of other things in that area. So it's getting a little crowded in the sort of 3, 4, 5, well, probably about 3 to 10K. It's very crowded in there. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not super sploshy, and which can happen a lot where there's a lot of spill and it's like just psh, there's not so much that. I'm just not hearing quite the definition. It seems like everybody's trying to, the attack on the snare, the attack on the guitars, everything is in the sort of 3 to 5K area. So I think a little bit of detail stuff. I think the first thing I would do is just get a bit more aggressive, make the snare a bit more ringing, a little less bottom snarey. So more top head, less bottom head. Probably a little bit more verb on the snare, just a tiny bit. You hear what I mean there on that fill? I mean, this is a really good mix, so I'm talking detailed stuff. We're really getting into like nitty gritty. Good point, young Christian. So Nate says, here's my first Plap Feedback Friday mix. Super pumped to be here learning with you excellent people. Marvellous place you've built here, Warren. Thank you very much. Use a bunch of Slate plugins on the mix, VMR on most tracks. On my bus, I tickled the VBR, FG Grey and FG Mu for a bit of glue. I sidechained the kick to the comp on the bass to duck the bass a bit. Virtual tapers on the guitars to warm up touch. Vox effects with a bit of Echo Boy going to the M phaser. A bit of verb sweep for the Vox verbs. I used a bit of Jack White's La Rosetto and Royal Blood, some for this references. Those are great, Royal Blood, and those are great references. Mixed on both Logic Pro X on Yamaha HS8s with a sub and an untreated living room. Lovely. Occasionally using your Audio Technica MS50 for my cans. I hope it rocks. Thanks for your input. Okay, thank you, Christian, for reminding me of this. This is really interesting. So, I wonder, because I feel like the mix is really, really good. I really do like what's going on in this mix. And I'm trying to figure out why I don't 100% like love it, because the balances are really, really good. The panning, the delay throws that you're doing on the end of stuff is really, really good. I'm going to have a listen again. It's making me wonder. Now, you know, there's the Slate plugin challenge where, you know, you're supposed to, this is a couple of years ago, mix a whole song only using his plugins. I almost feel like this would be an interesting one to do the reverse. Because if this song is mainly Slate, because I think all the choices are really, really good. And I can tell, Nate, that, you know, especially considering HS8s, a sub, an untreated living room, I mean, this is a really, you've done amazing work in that environment, you know. Really good work. I wonder if you swapped out some of these plugins for other manufacturers using the same things, what the results would be. I'm intrigued, almost the opposite. Most of the guys and girls I know that are, you know, quote unquote professionals, we don't like that word, definitely not experts, cherry pick one or two Slate plugins. But the sort of general consensus is, you know, unless you're Crystal Algae and paid a lot of money to say, you know, the general consensus is that they get a little cloudy, and Stephen doesn't have very many detailed plugins. You know, I'm just posing that question. I wonder what it'd be like. This is really exciting, Nate. Thank you for this. I wonder what it'd be like if you posted your mix, is if we swapped out, if somebody was interested in doing, swapping out other plugin manufacturers. It could be a really good test, and do the same EQ boosts and cuts and the same moves with somebody else's plugins. Like Waves obviously would be a big one. They're a lot more expensive, but you know, definitely a professional industry standard. I wonder what that would do. Any, what do you guys and girls think? I'd be intrigued. I'd be intrigued because my gut is this is a really, really great mix, and I can't put my finger on it why it doesn't sound like as amazing as it does. Does that make sense? And I'm wondering if using predominantly one manufacturer's plugins is doing that, you know. Well, Paul, I mean, what I'm saying, I think you're missing my point, sorry, is I really, really enjoy this mix. And I'm just wondering, you know, what it would be like to take another person's, you know, manufacturer's plugins and do that. Oh, I know everybody here uses a lot of Slate stuff, and you know, I've got nothing against Slate specifically. I'm just wondering what the difference would be when you use a more CPU intensive plugin, one that goes in, you know, and see what the difference in the results would be. I'm very excited to hear what that could be. Yeah, so if somebody wants to try it, I'd be excited to see what the results could be. Okay, yeah, it's interesting because I was wondering what the difference could be. So otherwise, fantastic mix. The main thing I would focus on is maybe that top end, you know, because I said it's a little like there's a little bit of a sheen and something going on, and I wonder how much of that could be using one manufacturer's, you know. Yes, so Kasha's calling me. All right, fantastic. Next up is Christian. Hey, Christian. Thanks very much, Nate. Welcome, everybody who's new. This is a really amazing place to discuss. As you can tell, we discuss all kinds of different stuff. We want to learn. We want to do real things and see, you know, what the difference is, you know, in mixing techniques, different plugins. It's fantastic when everybody shares what they do because we learn off of each other. Really, really amazing. All right, next up is Christian. Christian says, here's my mix of Hold On. I listened to Warren's mix on SoundCloud and it was super loud. So I tried to master my mix for Schnitz and Schniggles, also very loud without crushing it. Since clients could ask for the maximum loudness, I learned minus 9 ULUFS integrated as possible on SoundCloud. Well, it must be under 1 dB. Yeah, just so you know, we had that mastering conversation. We have to be careful because that is an average of the track. But if half the track is super quiet and the other half is like square waves, the average would read quite nicely between the whole track. You've got to sort of just, when you're on, if you're gonna level match stuff for SoundCloud, go to the loudest part and make sure that that is at the level that you want it to be, not the whole track. Because remember, if you take, and we had Warren Sokol talk about this, if you have like 3/4 of the song like barely audible acoustic guitar vocal and then slam it into square waves at the end, it's going to read the average as being significantly lower than the end of the song. So what I would suggest to do if you're trying to maximize the loudness for SoundCloud is go to a section that's the loudest and get that average. Okay, master with Waves, Linear MB, and just compressed the low end with fast release and simply turned it louder. Compressed low mids and turned them down. I went to Waves ARTG mastering just for a stereo spreader. Then I went to PA Alpha compressor to soft clip, compressed and turned it up louder, less crushed. This is one of those things we're going to have to hear. I'm reading it all here, but I'm excited to hear what it actually sounds like. I went to Waves L2 compressed some more, and I had my out ceiling to -2.6 to stay under -1 dB TP in the end. So even the L2 is not a total brick wall limiter. That's how I made it to 9.6 LFS. LUFS. This already sounds a bit crushed, but hopefully it's not horrible. Updated after Todd's feedback and gave the drum some more punch via parallel distortion. Okay, excited to hear. Let me just clear that out. Excellent. Good job, Christian.
This right, it's when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry, or all things I said to cover up my life. This right is when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry, or all things I said to cover up my life. Find the one you better hold on tight and don't let go. Don't leave this side, you better hold on. Yeah, you better hold on. 'Cause one day when it's crashing down and you tell yourself that you just need out, you better hold on. Yeah, you better. Cause she hates the way that you make her cry, and she hates the way that you always fight, but you hold on. Yeah, she's gonna hold on. And one day when it's crashing down and you tell yourself that you just need out, you better hold on. Yeah, you better. You have a long, 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 long way home.
Christian, great work. Really, really good work. Always do fantastic work. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, snares, fantastic. Love the vocal effect. Maybe you could argue the vocal's slightly loud. I don't know. You know, it's this kind of music, you know, can get on the radio, you know. We did this a few years ago when Mumford & Sons and Lumineers and all that stuff was huge, maybe 3-4 years ago. Actually talking to the artist at the moment about doing another EP specifically for you guys, to be honest. Specifically something we can record that you can work on, because I think he's really talented. We'll probably shoot some video content around him as well. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I love this. Great vocal tone. on the verge of maybe being loud, but not loud if it's a radio single. Bear that in mind. If this was an album track, I'd probably bring it down, but for the radio song, this is fantastic. Okay, it's really good. It's a little harsh in the high mids. That's probably the mastering that's exaggerated a bit. It's just a tiny bit harsh. Right at the get-go, I brought it down in volume. It was quite loud, obviously like you were talking about. When that came in there, I was like, dun cha, dun cha, like kind of like really, you know, I just wasn't, it was a little bright and I brought it down in volume and I didn't want to listen too loud, you know, all of the usual things. So maybe, if it's not, because it's not affecting everything in your mastering chain, so maybe go and look back to the cymbals, you know, maybe put a de-esser on the cymbals just to catch some of the extra shh. That's probably the first thing I would do. With the electrics, maybe not quite so much above. You don't need much more above set 5K. Maybe there's some sizzle going on in the 7K area of the electrics. I wouldn't say duck it, but maybe just like, you know, if there's any boost above 5K, maybe gently roll that off on the electric guitars. On the whole, it's really, really good. The main thing I would talk about is the kick. It's good, it's present, and sometimes it's really good and the low end is full, and other times it ducks a bit. So I would try a sidechain on your compression, on your master bus. Let the low end breathe a little bit more, and then don't be afraid to ride it. And if you want, go to your mastering here and see, you know, listen to this final mix and make a note of where the problem issues are, because you might want to ride it before you go back and try and remaster. I don't remember who mastered the original version of Hold On. It may have been me or it may have been Adam AM. But on the whole, sidechain compression, letting the low end breathe below 90 Hertz on the master bus would be huge. It would really, really help the low end on the kick. You could try 60, but I think 80 or 90 would be really good, because I think a little bit more low end on the bass, breathing a little bit would be fantastic. Go into the mix in the details, like on the overheads and the electric guitars, and try and tame the high end a bit. When I'm talking a bit, I'm talking about like shaving about a dB off. I'm not talking about like darkening it up completely. Just give me a little bit less there, so that when it comes to being mastered, it doesn't get quite so, you know, overly bright in that area. Really, really great work. Fantastic. All right, next up is Adrian Lomas. Let's go and read Adrian's notes. Adrian said, beginning here. It's almost 15 years since I mixed my acoustic home demos on my 4-track Fostex recorder. Inspired by Warren's enthusiasm on his YouTube videos, thank you. I'm diving in by trying to learn how to use Cubase. Signed up for a course on it. Going on in a deep end here with my first mix in a DAW. Probably like many people overly excited about trying to learn something new, I did get a hold of a few Waves plugins. Fantastic. MV2, Sheps Omni, great plugins, SSL E-channel and Master Bus Compressor. So along with the stock plugins they feature. I spent a few hours on it and mixed through headphones. Any comments are more than welcome. Absolutely great if you have any things on the most basic aspect of mixing are apparently what's being heard. Marvelous. Here we go. I'm excited to hear this. Nice.
Back in a suitcase, hurry, a car waits outside. Throw your things in the back, pull off the highway. You say, hey, thanks for the ride. And you're running to gate 21, breathless as you shuffle on. You made it in time, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down. Reread your message
which is so much that you never said. It gets tight in your chest, all of the what ifs. It could drive somebody mad, but you put your headphones back on, losing yourself in a song, wishing you'd spend more time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are plans to make when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way, way on the ground. You can't help but feel restless. Up here there's a second to catch your breath. All of the time that you have ain't enough, and every second it feels like half. 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down.
Wow. Wow, this is really good. I mean, let me go back. First time coming back after 15 years away. I mean, really, really great work. I mean, for a new member, just absolutely wonderful stuff. Adrian, really, really impressed. Congratulations. That is a fantastic mix. I went to go and listen on the speakers just to get a different perspective. It's hard to find fault with this because the original mix, you know, is so simplistic, and I'm really glad, and it's very smart that you would start with something simple like this. I think if you're new to the Academy, of course, anything, start with anything, but I like the idea that what Adrian's done here, which is to go and find something relatively simplistic to start off. And this song in particular, for those of you who haven't mixed it, has some certain issues in the recording. The acoustic guitar is unbelievably compressed, so you're pretty much stuck with the acoustic guitar sound. I think the only missteps we've ever had with this song is where, you know, somebody's tried to go in there and recompress and EQ it. It's so heavily compressed and EQ'd, well, not EQ'd, but so heavily compressed, it's kind of limited. And I think that what Adrian's done here, and is very smart, is he's preserved the recording sound, and that has really, really helped his mix. Very smart indeed. Really, really good work. I think there's a couple of times people were mentioning de-essing. I actually wouldn't do any more de-essing, but I understand what they're saying. I would go into the vocal and I would sit there and gain down like S's or T's or breaths that maybe feel a little bit too much. Now, with Chase in particular, he doesn't do a lot of, because he's not like, wah! He's not belting it out. He's like, da 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 da. He's not taking these huge breaths and wailing. So I don't find the breaths on Chase's stuff to be too bad. But I think this is a good example of maybe going in there and practicing some automation, some gaining down of phrases. I'm not too familiar or au fait with Cubase to specifically say what to go in there and do, but it definitely just little bit of detail stuff. Other than that, remarkably good. Like really, really good. Really, really good. Very, very impressed indeed. I honestly, Adrian, for a first mix, this is really good. And I think it's very smart that you're coming from an acoustic vocal world to doing this and then going into something a bit more expansive. So I'm very excited to hear what you do once we you know, have a full band going. Great work. Okay. So we're going to be, next up, we have Neo 21. Let's go and check that out. Neo21 says, I mixed this one twice. The first in Mix Bus 32C and Reason 10. The Reason Mix was better of the two. Maybe it's just a workflow for me. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. All right, I'm going to bring the volume down a dB just to make sure, because it looks pretty darn loud. Okay, here we go.
Trust me, I'm listening. Don't you trust me? Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved. Shallow reserve, but you got feeling I get from closing my eyes as I throwing my hands in the air, but I can fill up my mouth with curses and lies. I don't think that my friends would care. I can feel my face going hot like a film strip melting a yellow wave. I cover my eyes like a moth to the lights that paralyze. Are you wondering, I'm falling out? Are you wondering? Time changes time into a spineless curve, turn
Wow, really, really good. Love this song. This is a personal favorite of mine. A lot of these songs that we've done in here, you know, they cover a million different genres, but what a lot of them have is the fact that they're obviously things I've recorded. You know, this one's essentially a band live in a room. There's other ones with tons of overdubs. Chase, of course, just comes here, works on a song, we do overdubs, and then he leaves, and I mix it, you know. Sometimes I'll add additional guitars and stuff like that, you know. What I would suggest on this is, like, it's so close. It's so unbelievably close. I think some of the things I'm going to say are very typical, and we talk about a lot, is like a little bit more oomph on the kick, a little bit more 40 to 60. Wouldn't hurt at all. I think it'd be really nice if we get in here. I mean, it's a great mix. It's very, very detailed and figured out in that low end, but I think a little bit more low lows would be amazing. I think ultimately the bass sound is fantastic. It's at times just a little bit too loud, so I think a bit of automation on the bass, just like when it's on its own, just bring it down just a little bit. There's a couple of moments, because of the nature of the part that I had in play with the effect, it gets a little lost for like a fraction of a second, like a little riff will go. So maybe a little bit of automation on there. I think low lows on the kick, automating the bass, bring it down overall just a tiny, tiny little bit. A couple more things I would listen to. Wow, I mean, Neo 21, if you mix in a bad room, I can tell you your results are fantastic. I mean, this is really, really good. And I know that we're sharing ideas here. Everybody that's new here that's played a mix, which is, I think it's Nate, Adrian, and Neo 21. I don't know how many mixes you've done so far. But the reality is like, after being around for a few months and swapping ideas with people, if this is where you're starting from, you're all going to do amazing work. Really, really amazing work. This is a great place to be starting from, and this is a wonderful place to get, you can see, community involved in helping each other. So I think I really like this mix. I think the snare needs more body. The toms need more body as well, like a little bit more. Don't be afraid to maybe put an R bass or something like that on the toms. Similarly, you know, you could do that on, not necessarily on the kick, but maybe that's what it needs. The only thing I would say is that the R bass itself has a tendency to mess with the phase. So if you put it on an individual element of a kick drum, it will mess up the phase. So put it on the overall of the kick drum, just a shade, just a tiny bit. Similarly with the toms, you know, just a little bit of 80 on the toms wouldn't be a bad thing, but just remember to cut out the low mids to really let it breathe. You know, it's really fantastic for me. So more low lows on the kick, just a bit. Riding the bass guitar, great tone though, really good tone. You preserved the indie-ness of it, and that's what I love. There's been a couple other mixes that have been really good, but they've taken away the indie, you know, flanging effect thing that I did and gone for a more traditional bass, which is understandable because that makes it easier to mix. But using that chorusy, flangey bass tone as predominantly as you have, my hat's off to you. That's what I wanted to do. So I really like that. So more body on the snare, more body on the toms, sorry, not the Thames, the river toms, and then put a little bit more 40 to 60 on the kick underneath. And I think you'll have something really special. Great work. This has been really, really good week. Really fantastic. Especially, you know, the level of the new people coming in. Yeah. Okay, yeah, Neo 21, tell me what you think of the NX Waves. I really like the Abbey Road one. I flew out and saw them demonstrate it, and I was in the room, and I got to hear it and then hear it in the room, and it's pretty remarkable. And Dave Way bought it. I saw him in Nashville last week. It was one of the best mixers in the world, you know, Michael Jackson, you name it, incredible. And he said to me, this is what we call a why not? Why wouldn't you buy it? What is the downside of being able to reference your mix in another room in a different environment? But there's a couple of people who I admire have done reviews and have already taken a negative view on it without understanding the implications. But it's interesting that professionals are impressed with it. And then some semi-professionals or whatever are very skeptical. I think what it is for us is we like the idea of being in one sitting like this, sitting with your headphones on and being able to check what it would sound like in a different environment. It stops me having to run in and out of my car and go and do other stuff, especially if you're in a new room. Let's say you go to a new studio to work, a friend's place. Now you've got one reliable thing that you can always check and know sounds good. All right. Next up is Uri. And Yuri, my fault. Yuri says, hey Yuri, here's my take on L.E.'s Too Bad. Cool song and great singer. Thank you very much. Great vocal effects there. Love it on the end there. Just be able to hear that. It was fantastic. Very Pink Floyd, The Wall. Okay, this is a really good mix, Yuri. I really like it. People are touching on it here, and so I'll give you my perception. So my perception is that, and I get what you've done here, and it's smart. You've removed some of the low lows on the kick and the bass in the verses, so that when the chorus comes in, it gets fat. I mean, it almost, like, if you listen to the differentiation between, say, the pre-chorus here and the chorus, have a listen to this. Everybody concentrate on this for a second.
Why did it have to fade? It's too bad how things change quickly.
So all of that fat synth, that it's just huge. It's really, really huge. I think that I definitely want to hear more low lows on the kick. The clickiness, the snap on the kick is just a little bit too much for me. I think that could come down in general. I think we're into the world of automation. So what I would like you to think about is maybe some more low lows on the kick, shaving a bit of low lows off of the bass synth, putting a bit more low lows back on the bass. I think what you've done is smart. If you skinny down the kick, you've skinny down the bass a bit, whether it's conscious or not, just to make when the synth comes in, the fat synth, it all makes sense. However, at the moment, it feels like the low end in the verses is diminished a little bit too much for the chorus. So I would definitely get in there and do a little bit more detailed work on those elements. So bring me back some low lows on the kick and the bass guitar, and then when the chorus comes in, maybe skinny down just a little bit the fat synth, just so that those things don't have to disappear. So you can keep the energy of the low lows in the kick and the bass. The next thing I would look at is, let me have a quick look at this one again. Oh yes, is bringing the click down on the kick just a bit, the snappiness on the kick. Because even in the chorus where it gets dense, it's still pretty dominant. When I went over to the speakers, it still was like tick, 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 you could hear it. I mean, that snappiness on that kick is super, super loud. So I'd bring it down in general, the snappiness on the kick. Otherwise, really, really great. I mean, I get where your mind went on the idea of like differentiation between sections, but it does mean that for me that the other section's a little bit too light. Great, great work. Excellent. And I love all the support and everybody talking here. Hey, Scott Martin, you have to go to lunch. Thanks very much, Scott. I appreciate it. All right, next up is Kip. Hey, Kip. Trying to leave less of a footprint in my Academy mixes, so let me know if it's any better. I really like working on this, though. The band, I mean, if you guys have feedback, it'd be much appreciated. Okay, great. Now, I am going to Europe for 3 weeks on a holiday with the family. So we're going to film a whole bunch of these, and I'll endeavour to do some live stuff as well, but just to let you know. So there will be a new mix going up next week. We have to dig one of those out. Eric's nodding at me. What do we have? What do we find?
Haven't looked yet.
I know what I want to find. I'll tell you in a minute. All right, so next up is Kip.
This right, it's when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry, or all the things I said to cover up my lies. fight is when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry are all things I said to cover up my lies. You got a heart of stone, and I got a long, 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 long way home. And when you find the one, you better hold on tight and don't let go. Don't leave this side, you better hold on. Yeah, you better hold on. 'Cause one day when it's crashing down and you tell yourself that you just need out, you better hold on. Yeah, you better hold on. 'Cause she hates the way that you make her cry, and she hates the way that you always fight, but you hold on. Yeah, she's gonna hold on. And one day when it's crashing down and you tell yourself that you just need out, you better hold on. Yeah, you better hold on. She'll have a heart of stone. You'll have a long, 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 long way home.
Wow. Kip, I mean, you, and I understand what you're saying about your footprint. You always do really, really cool, inventive mixes, and you're a great creative. I know we've done Skype calls, and I know that Kip is really into like a late 70s, early 80s. I wouldn't say goth, but he likes Joy Division and The Cure and a lot of bands like that. And some of his productions are amazing because they're touching on a genre I really love. I mean, to me, I like the best of the best. You know, I love 60s stuff. I love great prog rock in the 70s and late 60s. You know, I do. And then I love, you know, obviously Queen, but I also have a soft spot for that mid-late 70s to mid-80s kind of production where it was just all bets were off and it was amazing. And Kip does really good work in this. This, Kip, though, proves how good you are and how much, because I see you so involved in the academy and everybody helping each other, you are the proof, because this, if people were to go back and listen through the development of the mixes, this is so close to being something that would easily compete with pretty much any mixer I know out here. And this is why we do this. We do this so that people can grow and learn from each other and then pretty much make a living at this. Whether on their own music. I know with Kip, he and his wife have a band together. So now he's taking this information and he's applying it, and now with the productions he can do with his own band, he can bring it to this kind of level. The reality, if he continually mixes at this kind of level and keeps growing, he could put records out on his own. If a label ever wanted to pick it up, what are they going to do? They're not going to pay somebody to redo it. That's what's so great. So this is very, very high level this week. Incredibly high level. Kip, very, very impressed. I don't have any major comments. I think the drums, when it came into this section here, just superb.
'Cause she hates the way that you make her cry, and she hates the way that you always fight, but you hold on. Yeah, she's gonna hold on. And one day when it's crashing You have a long, 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 long way home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of on the fence with Tom. Maybe the drums are a little hot. They're super, super exciting. If you want to do a drums down, a dB across the whole mix, I don't think it'll make a huge difference. It just might open up some of the other things. At the same time, I like this kind of hot drum mix because it's kind of the Kip thing. You know what I mean? He brings his personality to it. So, yeah, try a 1 dB down exactly as it is. The only thing you're going to find if you do bring the drums down 1 dB, you're going to have to compensate for the low end because your low end at the moment, so that's why it's never as simple as just turning it down. If you bring it all down, you're going to have to boost the low end on the kick back up to match because at the moment you have a really good balance. Just turning down the drums will unfortunately destroy your balance between your bass guitar and your kick. I almost feel like you'll have to bring down your bass guitar and your kick together to achieve something pretty balanced, and then you'll have to give us a little bit more oomph on the kick drum if you do that. But save this mix and then maybe do one that's a dB down on the drums, extra boost on the low end on the kick, and bring the bass down maybe 0.7, and I think you'll get just as amazing a mix but slightly different balances. What I like about this is I like how upfront that is. I like how exciting that is, and I think this is sometimes the thing we have to remember with mixing is it's not always about like the technical aspect. It's like technically this is a superb mix, but it's the excitement, and I am responding to the drums being a little offensively loud because it's like it's like, yeah, this is rocking. And sometimes if you sit things like perfectly, you lose a little bit of that excitement. So just bear that in mind. But I think do both mixes and then reference and go between them and see what you emotionally respond to, or play them to people that aren't technically thinking and see what they respond. That was the interesting thing I learned about working with record labels, you know, working at Epic and working at Capitol, was that nobody listens to music like we do. You know, love or hate record companies, if they've got a good skill, a good A&R guy listens to music like, as the English would say, a punter. As, you know, they listen to it as a real person. And I think, you know, just bear that in mind. But I agree, technically the drums are a little loud, but is that part of what makes it exciting? I don't know. Let's do a drums down mix and see. All right, next up is Jesper. Great work, Kip. So good. Jesper says, here's my remix done by Arthur, Labus, Fabianuzzi, and me. Hey, Fab. Hey, Arthur. Hey Jesper, are you there? Arthur did the final drums and mixing. Fab mastered an additional guitar playing. Me, musical idea and chords, rhythmic guitars and keys. Super fun remixing songs this way together with Plapper friends. Absolutely. Collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration. Any feedback is welcome.
Achtung, der Luftschutzwarndienst gibt bekannt. Suchen Sie sofort einen Schutzraum, einen Keller oder eine behelfsmäßige Deckung auf.
Back in a suitcase, hurry, a car waits outside. Throw your things in the back, pull off the highway. You say, hey, thanks for the ride. And you're running to gate 21. Breathless as you shuffle on. You made it in time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller. Like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down. feel restless. Up here there's a second to catch your breath. All of the time that you have ain't enough, and every second it feels like hell. 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way.
Ich wiederhole. Suchen Sie sofort einen Schutzraum, einen Keller oder eine behelfsmäßige Decke. Ende.
Seems even smaller, like painted silhouettes on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down.
Wow, gentlemen, my hat's off. I mean, all the production elements on the remix were fantastic. Really, really good. Love everything about it. What a great combination of all of your talents. Jesper, Arthur, and Fabio. I mean, that was just an amazing combination. Wow. So, I mean, basically, we could end it at that, with just like hats off, amazing. So, drum-wise, I can definitely tell they have a program feel. So, can we dirty them up? I don't know if you're using Addictive or Easy, or but if you're in Addictive, there's a distortion on it. Just distort them a bit, so make them like clang, clang. And I'm not like over-the-top distortion, just a bit. Like a little bit of, a little bit. I feel like somebody's mentioned, Rammstein, you know? I gotta get my German on, Rammstein. And with Rammstein, who are playing at the moment actually, because I got photos last night from Poland, from Roland and Kirsten from Eve Audio sent me photos of being at the Rammstein show. And so that's exciting. So yes, I definitely hear that, but so a little bit more like, you know, danger, a bit more industrial drums, clang, clang, just a bit more dirty up, you know what I mean? For me, the rhythm guitars, I feel like they're a little smudged around the middle and the sides. I want one left, one right, you know, even if it's layered 3 or 4 parts. Just give me super width when those go. Otherwise, absolutely frickin' superb. And I don't even, I'm afraid to even like have, not afraid, but I don't want to even have mixed critique stuff because I feel like it's taking away from the fact that this is absolutely brilliant. This is one of my favorite collaborations and the reason why we do this. I just spoke twice at Blackbird Academy in Nashville. And the thing that kept coming out over and over again when people asked me, what is the best way to get better? Do you know what I kept saying? Collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration. And afterwards, I spoke to Mark Rubel, and he's like, that was his main note. And something that he really heard was like getting people to collaborate with each other. You have all collaborated in many different ways, whether it be helping each other out here, in the chats inside of the Academy, on the forums, all that stuff. It's been pretty amazing. So I really, really applaud you. This is superb. Give me more aggression in those drums, pan those rhythm guitars super, super wide, and you have a winner. Absolutely superb work. Wow. Really blown away. All right, next up is Dustin Roberts. Dustin says, here's my first mix here in a little while. Tried some things I learned from the CLA Slate videos, so got a little creative with some reverse reverbs, lovely. I hope everyone digs it and I'm looking forward to all of the feedback. Wonderful.
trust me. Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved, lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you've got a lot of nerve. The feeling I get from closing my eyes is like throwing my hands in the air, but I can fill up my mouth with curses and lies. I don't think that my friends would care. I can feel my face growing hot like a film strip melting a yellow wave. I cover my eyes like a moth to the lies that paralyze. Yeah, yeah. Are you wondering or falling out? Are you wondering? And time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved, lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you got a lot of nerve. Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved, lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you got a lot. Time changes time into a spineless curve, turned on a dime, away from what was preserved, lost in my mind is a shallow reserve, but you got a lot of nerve. You got a lot of nerve. Yes, you got a lot of nerve.
Dustin, absolutely fantastic stuff. Really, really cool. I think for me, it's minor things. I think it's a low end thing. When you hear the toms, they're a little cardboardy, meaning they need some low mids cut from them. They're a little plup plup. So a little bit. I don't want to hear full blown 80s. Don't get me wrong, but a little bit more of that. So pull out a little bit more 350 out of the toms. You can probably widen it up a little bit. That scoop out. Don't be afraid to give me some bit more 80 down there. You don't need 60 because that'll get in the way of the kick, but a bit more 80 on the toms. Bass sound was fantastic. The general direction on it was superb. A couple of people mentioned the vocal was maybe a bit low in places. I would go in there and ride the vocal a little bit. And tiny bit more 40 to 60 underneath. I've got error and playback. You got that as well? Okay, cool. My YouTube, I was watching it, just went error and playback and went. Okay, it's back. I just had to refresh my screen. It's probably just me. Yeah, somebody said just lost the feed. Yeah, aren't you watching?
I've got feed on my end.
Are you watching the final thing or you?
YouTube, yeah.
Interesting. You didn't lose the feed.
It's still going.
Um,
you can come peek over here. It's
Okay. All right, so anyway, we're back. Not quite sure what it was. I had a problem for a second as well, but Eric didn't, and he's watching the live feed, so goodness knows what YouTube is doing with us. Anyway, yeah, a bit more low-lows. Okay, Lem said he's fine. So a bit more low-lows on that kick, a bit more like body on the toms, and the vocal up a bit. Otherwise, absolutely superb. I love the reverse stuff you were doing on that melody line, on that guitar. Really, really good. Fantastic work. All right, next up is Todd Mitchell. I'm imagining Charlie Clouser will arrive any second, and you all can say hi to her. I know there's a couple of you on here that were at Hansa, so that'll be lovely for you to see her too. All right, Tom Mitchell says, hey to all who care to offer feedback. I promise I'll reciprocate. If you haven't done this song, point me to one you'd like. I found I had to rely on a lot of dynamic EQ in this one. There are so many instances of Waves F6, it's kind of crazy. Almost everything else is EQ, automation, and master bus. Although there are effect sends on the vocals, reverb, and a room. Thanks in advance. Wonderful. Let's check it out. Todd Mitchell. Go, Todd.
This ride is when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry, all the things I said to cover up my life. You got this ride is when I have my chance to show you I'm alive. All the things I said to make you cry, or all the things I said to cover up my life. Just need out, you better hold on. Yeah, you better hold on.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay, so I agree. I think everybody's touching on the same thing. Todd, it's a really nice mix. I know it's going to come to life dramatically if you turn the bass down. And it needs to come down about 2 dB. So start with it down 2 dB. And then listen, it's hard for me to comment on the low end of the kick because I believe the bass guitar is taking up so much low end. I can't really tell if there is enough low end on it. My guess is there may be, but because the bass is sort of dominating it. Now, it might be your room. This could be a really good discussion to figure out the room, you know, whether the room is coloring, you know, that there's a dip. Maybe there's some kind of node going on at about 80 to 100. So it feels like there's a lack of bass guitar in there and you're compensating by turning up the bass. That would be interesting to know. We just did a video with Carl Tatz in one of his flagship studios in Nashville talking about how he gets that sound, how he makes sure that the listening position here is absolutely perfect. Now, it could be that you're mixing on headphones and maybe your headphones have a bit of a dip between 80 and 100. I mean, that could well be it. I mean, let's have a quick look at this. Otherwise, the mix, I think, is fantastic. The vocal needs to be brighter, not quite so muffled, and frankly, louder. But if we just get something basic, just a frequency analyzer here. Let's have a quick look here.
Cover up my life. You got a heart of gold, and I got a long, 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 long way home. Yeah, you better hold on, 'cause one day when it's crashing down.
So it's, like I said, it's about 80. It's actually 75. So I'm 5 hertz out, so it's 75, not 80. But yeah, there's definitely, you can hear it there. I mean, if we did something naive and just grabbed an EQ, for instance, this is naive because this is not the way to do it, but kind of went in there at 75, went a bit narrow here and played it back. This is about 2 dB, 2.5 dB dip.
That you always lie, but you hold on. Yeah, she's gonna hold on. And one day when it's crashing down and you tell yourself that you just need out, you better hold on.
So it's quite possible your room or your headphones or a combination of room, headphones, speakers, whatever it might be, is giving you an artificial like 2.5 dB lift at about 75 hertz, 75 to 80. So you might find that there is a place in your room that's doing it. I mean, because as soon as I apply that EQ, it's working much better for me. Not as good, obviously, as just pulling the bass down. And I could actually go to like 60 here and give it a little boost. Let's see what happens. Just seeing what's there of the kick. So I think if you bring the bass down dramatically, like 2 dB, 2.5 dB probably, the mix is going to come to life. Because that's a very, what I just did there was a very naive way of doing it. But it's what a mastering engineer would do. What we just did was like fake master, what they would do. And the mix would come out great and it would be even and balanced and sound good in lots of environments. But of course you would be frustrated because it wouldn't sound as round in the low end as you want just by mixing the individual elements. You know, mastering is not a fix-all kind of thing. All right, we've got one last song to review and we have an artist here. You say hello.
Hello. Hey guys.
Look who it is. Who's here was actually at Hansa? Who was at Hansa? Anybody? Was anybody at Hansa here? Oh, we've got a 30-second delay, so we have to ask, and then it's going to take them 30 seconds to respond. Actually, I don't think it's quite 30 seconds. I think it's more like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's like 15.
Yeah, 10 or 15.
Although I will say, Dave Merkel just laid out a great joke that you have to read.
What is great?
It's-
Hiya, Charlie, says Dave.
Hey guys.
This is the demonstration of Merkel's super hearing frequency wave that makes my superhero. Thank you, that's very nice. What was the joke?
Boom. The super here. Oh.
Oh, I didn't read. Yeah.
Boom.
Boom, chin. Look, there's Jörg. You remember Jörg?
Hey Jörg.
That's right pronunciation, yes?
Jörg Stagge? Oh, what do you mean?
Jörg, I'm saying Jörg properly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I don't
It's the same as Cologne, Köln.
Köln. Who else was there? Lem says sort of. I don't know. Did I miss something? What did I say that he's saying sort of to respond? I missed. Toby was not at Hansa but says hello anyway. Daniel says he says hi Charlie. Sheila says Charlie rocks. Charlie you rock. Hey. So we're going to listen. So we're going to listen to the last song on speakers so that Charlie can hear as well. So we're chair for Charlie. Yes. And it's going to be a mix of Long Way Down. Oh, so this is going to be interesting because this is just guitar and vocal. I wonder if he's added anything. Let's go and read. Okay, so Chris says, had fun creating the vocal harmonies for this one. Oh, so he created some vocal harmonies. Done with built-in Cubase tuning tool, very similar to the way Melodyne works. So this song was recorded live on acoustic and vocal with a girl here who was what? She's 18. She's 18 from Brazil, Laura, and people have been mixing it and remixing and adding stuff. So he's added some artificial harmonies. Drums totally did my head in regarding kick and snare. Trying to get a thud right on the snare, my ears said good 1 minute, then bad another. Trying to listen to the mix as a whole became harder, and the longer I mixed, so taking breaks is something to watch. As always, got some great opinion and advice from Todd P on the vocals. Then he'd bring up the choruses, and my tired ears thank him for that. Any comments, suggestions, welcome. All right, here we go.
Back in a suitcase, hurry, a car waits outside. Throw your things in the back, pull off the highway. You say, hey, thanks for the ride. And you're running to gate 21, breathless as you shuffle on. You made it in time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down. Reread your messages, so much that you never said. It gets tight in your chest, all of the what ifs. It could drive somebody mad, but you push your headphones back on, losing yourself in a song, wishing you'd spend more time. Way up high, the world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are plans to make when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds, the world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way, way on the The world is a long, long way, way up high. The world seems even smaller, like painted city lights on the ground. There are things to face when you land, but for now, 10,000 feet in the clouds. The world is a long, long way down. The world is a long, long way down. Down, down, down.
Wow,
Wow, amazing. Did you enjoy that?
I love it.
Yeah, and that
That's amazing.
I mixed up my songs. I was just saying to Eric, we've got to put the name of the artist because there's so many. What's Steve's song? It's called
Long
Long
way down, and this one is long, long way down.
Long Way Down, Long Long Way
Or
Down,
long way home, whatever.
Long Way Home, Home Done, Long Cap.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then what's Laura's song? It's called, I don't know. I'm sorry. So I apologize. So we're going to put the artist's name in future. So good. Chris, wow. All of the elements, not only were the elements amazing you add and the chord change that you added, not only was it that, just like the mix was fantastic as well. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Again, proving the point, working with each other, but more importantly, or just as importantly, I should say, is like taking the tracks and not being precious about them and not being afraid to produce stuff and remix it, because that's why we're called Produce Like a Pro, not mix like a mix, like a mix, like a mix, because every channel and everything you know is all about mixing. What plugin can I sell you to help your mixes? You know, it's a lot more than that. It's all definitely about, you know, production. You know, some of the best records ever made, they didn't have mixers. The engineer was the mixer. When they finished tracking the record, they put it out. You know, and that's still predominantly the music we listen to. It's a sort of recent 90s, mid-80s, but mainly 90s thing where suddenly we spent millions of dollars on mixing everything. The mix on this was fantastic, but the biggest thing, the biggest differentiator was the additional production. It was absolutely superb. Wonderful work, Chris. What an amazing week. Yay!
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Yes.
Your brief 10 minutes of, or 5 minutes of Produce Like a Pro Academy?
Yeah, I wish I would be here earlier.
Oh, it's okay.
To listen to after mix because it sounds fantastic. It's super warm
Yeah,
and good job.
fantastic. All right, we're going to get back to making an album or an EP or the beginnings of an album. I don't know what it is. The beginnings of an album. It's going to be a process.
Started.
Thank you ever so much. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. We'll see you all again very, very soon.